I'll do a little welcome and then I'll hand over to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, that's great. We're delighted to welcome everybody to this talk from Cecilia. We're so much looking forward to the talk from her. I'm going to leave it to Andrea to actually introduce our speaker today, but just wanted to say that this is the last of our webinars this year, and we look forward to another series next year. And so without further ado, Andrea, may I pass over to you?
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. We are expecting quite a few more people, but we know that people are having difficulties with one thing and another, but this is being recorded, so we'll be able to send it out afterwards. So I have the great honor of introducing Cecilia Flores-Oebanda, who I'm privileged to say has been a friend of mine for a while. I often wonder when people think about freedom fighters, what they think a freedom fighter looks like. And I assume that they don't think about someone who looks like Cecilia. They think of someone, you know, very, very kind of macho or something. But this is, we're honored to have Cecilia with us today. And what Cecilia has been fighting for both all her life and with her career is against trafficking and slavery. And this is something for all of us that we are alarmed and upset about, but Cecilia has been addressing it for all this time. And we know that this has huge risks. And for us, I think, as all of us as social entrepreneurs know that we must take risks to make our organizations successful, but are we really taking the sort of risks that Cecilia has had to take all her life? It raises another question about the leadership of organizations and the kind of risks people are willing to take. And it would be lovely to hear from Cecilia how she faces those risks, but also has faced all the issues of succession once she's started an organization, how she's moved through that organization. So let me just hand over now to Cecilia, a much award-winning Cecilia, for her story of where she started and how she's moved through her organization and indeed moved through to retirement. So over to you, Cecilia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for having me. Well, I'll start maybe in sharing with you when I started my young life. I grew up in a very challenging part of our history here in the Philippines. It's under martial law, under Marcos dictatorship, and unfortunately, his son is back in power here in the Philippines now. So there's so much pain, so much suffering, but I became a mother when I was leading a liberation movement in the mountain. I fight the dictator really for loving freedom, you know, freedom for Filipinos and dreaming that someday we will be enjoying life again as a family. I witnessed death of people that I lead and people that I love. During this time, I was captured and in prison together with my husband. I was pregnant then with my son, Kip. And I have another baby while in prison. I named her Malaya, which actually means freedom. You know, after 4 years in prison, the People's Power Liberation succeeded to oust the dictator, and our family were freed and released in prison. As you can imagine, it's not really easy to raise children in prison. You know, it's a very difficult life. And this is the first time that I experienced that I'm stripped with all the freedom that I have. And not only me, but including my whole family. So after 4 years in prison, I was released. And I go back, of course, to the society, and actually I don't know what to do. I'm not really prepared, actually. But this is also the part where I started to found our organization. Before it's called Visayan Forum, but as of now, we changed the name into the Voice of the Free. It is a grassroots organization here in the Philippines, and for the 3 decades already, we are the pioneer and the frontline organizations trying to protect victims and vulnerable groups against human trafficking in ports and airports. So we are in transit area. We try to avoid trafficking, in transit, and it is like a head-to-head collusion to the traffickers. So it's very risky because, as you know, trafficking is an organized crime, it's an economic crime, and you are really dealing even with the corrupt officials of the government. So it's like a battleground. It's like a battleground here, especially when we start the fight. As you know, the Philippines, we are a migrant country. We send people abroad to work as a domestic worker. So a lot of them, thousands of them are actually trafficked, and a lot of them are suffering. So behind the rescue, the battleground, we also work on looking and crafting laws in order to address systemic policies that perpetuates trafficking and slavery of our people. So we were able to pass 3 national laws, and we also help in 2 international law, the anti-child labor law and the domestic worker law, the decent work for domestic work. So we help that in the International Labor Organization with the crafting that law. So of course, given the risks, it's really consuming internally. I have no time really also to process my own fear. I don't have any process my own trauma. Straight from the prison, you jump to another battleground. So sometimes that's what I really, really feel. And the more that I dip myself in the fight, I observe that I become really anger, and my motivation is revenge. And and I'm very hard to myself. I feel guilty of the people that lost their life. I'm always angry, So, so it's not really. I know that now that while I'm doing that, I become really broken also inside, and I have no space and don't allow myself to heal or to allow myself to face my own trauma. I'm just go on and go on. As I said to Chris and Andrea, when we started this, we thought that we'll never go old. we just go on and go on, and here we are.
Thank you, Cecilia. That's a very powerful and moving story, and I really admire everything that you've been able to say, because I know even now that all that is very, very difficult to say. It's a long time ago, but losing people that you have supported and loved we know is very, very hard. Chris, I know we have we'd like to have a conversation with Cecilia, so I just wondered if you have anything to start us off with.
Cecilia, thank you so much for that background and also for the sharing of the question of trauma and so on. And I think we should get to that as part of our conversation today. That would be a very interesting part to discuss. I wondered, if I'm not mistaken, you actually retired from the organization some 3 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I'm sort of teasing you in a way, but it's also a serious question.
Yes.
How do you think about yourself now in the organization? Do you see yourself as being retired and therefore being a cheerleader from the side? Do you see yourself still very active, having not been able to retire fully? What's the story there?
Well, we've been talking actually about transition because even my board, they know that I'm also struggling inside, and it's really taking a toll also in my health. And of course, I have no life. Even in my dreams, I even I know I even dreams my work, right? So, but actually, we take it seriously when I entered the Skoll Wellbeing Project. It's really helped me a lot, and Andrea is actually instrumental to this because she is the one who encouraged me to take part of the program
In the
and
Wellbeing Project.
the Wellbeing Project. And that's only the starts of having my different perspective, in life. And at first, when she encouraged me, I said, what is she talking about? I cannot leave the organization for 2 weeks. I feel guilty about that, and I'm sitting there and thinking about myself. No, I can't. Right? So that's my perspective actually. So, but through the Wellbeing Project, I come to face my own being, my own brokenness, my own trauma that I buried in the past. It's like, I think it's really layers of trauma that we just tend to ignore, but it's there, the guilt of the past, the mistake that we made, and the people that we lost, and all those emotional, unproductive emotional emotions that sometimes I feel that destroy my faith in goodness of people. So we planned a transition for 5 years. At first, I was scared that nobody was brave enough like me. I'm scared that there's maybe no one that are committed enough than me to serve the way I serve, to fight the way I fight. But, I think when I go deeper and do also my reflections, I realize really that because we are already more than 30 years organization, I realize that Voice of the Free might be outlive me, right? Maybe I die of stress or whatever, whatever physical or medical problems that I have. But I realized that what's really important for me is the mission and the vision of the organization, the vision of a society that no Filipinos are free to explore opportunity without the risk of being exploited and enslaved. So I realized that mission or vision, it's bigger than me. So that's why I really find time to spend more time with my colleagues. And I realized that it's not true. That's I'm braver than others because we share the same commitment. We share the same passion. And some of them are actually with me for 20 years,
Wow.
Yeah. So that's I think where we start.
So would it be true to say that would it be true, Cecilia, to say that much of the quote unquote discussion that you are having or that you have had about transition and succession, in a sense, is an internal discussion?
Yes, yeah.
It's a discussion, as it were, with yourself. When is the best time? Who can I trust to take it over? What is going to be the legacy? In other words, the organization. Are these the things that preoccupy you?
Yes, and definitely it's not only for me, but for the whole organization, for the board also. So it's a collective journey. We believe that during the time when we plan the transitions, that Voice of the Free is already in the new life season. not only the organization, but all the people that also started it, the people who've been with us. So it's a different season because it's a different landscape. It's a different world, you know. And if we really focus on the missions, I think it's go beyond our fear or our ego or whatever dynamics that we have. And yeah, it's been 3 years now since I retired. But my explanation in retired is just retiring a car. So if you're a car, you just change the retiring. It's a different. I think it's a different nature. It's just really transitioning to a different kind of capacity, different kinds of rules. And for us, since it is a collective journey, yeah, for 3 years, it's been a very, I think it's smooth and good. And of course, we have a lot of discussion. There is also a lot of fear from my colleagues because they are always used that I'm there, the fine comfort that I'm there and everything. But when everybody realized that it's not only me who is transitioning, but the whole organization is transitioning, it becomes as a collective responsibility. And on the top of that, our board also recognized the importance of my experience and institutional knowledge that can still very valuable to the organizations with very clear boundaries. So as of now, they invite me as a board member with the defined rule. Yes, I'm still active, but in different manner. I don't do in the day-to-day or even the managerial operational. No, I try to discipline myself, but I would say that it's not easy, because we are used to what we are doing, right? But it's really take a lot of discipline and respect to the new leadership, to let them go and just really there to be with them. So they also give me a project. We have a special project which actually deal more on the sustainability of organization and the survivors, because we need enterprise for the survivors. So I'm dealing with that. As of now, it's a new project, and I'm still helping in donor relation, fundraising, with a very clear very clear boundaries. And yeah, I have a very constructive relationship with the new CEO. I mentor her. She's been with the organization for 18 years. She's really like a sister. And as I said, I'm very careful and very respectful of the boundaries for the new CEOs. And
so what would be a useful tip if we were thinking of boundaries, which you've just mentioned several times now? What would be a useful tip? What would be the things that a founder who is still involved but in a retired context, what would be the kind of boundaries that we should be thinking about?
Well, I think we need to understand that there's really a process. There are sometimes for us, we have like an overlapping at the start, right? Because I need really to walk her through, in all the nitty-gritties of the operations and everything. But as I said, it should be a collective journey for everybody. And for me, the boundaries is really the operations, the strategies, the HR and other, the operational side, and we deal more on the bigger pictures, directions and any support, even her well-being, So I think that one is really clear, because we need also to establish, that the whole organization respect our CEOs. And for me, the success of the new CEOs, the success of new leadership is my success, right? Yeah. So I think it's really, shifting our mindset, and I think there are a lot of founders that they feel that they are immediately isolated and disconnect, and I think that it's not really helping. We need to understand that this is our life also, and even the whole organization need to to understand that and find some way for us also for them to benefit what we have, the knowledge and the institutional knowledge that we have. So I think that's for me, and of course it need to be defined by the board. It's need really to delineate that. I'm just really lucky that my board is, well, they understand their governance, their governance role on all of this, but they are really also very respectful on the history and the whole power, of the whole being of the organization, and they are very respectful also to me.
Thank you.
Cecilia, we have so much to learn from you, from the way you have set up your organization, moved through it, and gone through a transition process, and we'd love over the next year or so to just learn little bits that we can sort of gather that wisdom and pass them on to other people, because there are so many people struggling with this issue. But one of the things that really strikes me about what you've been saying is that your courage in setting up and fighting all the things you did right at the beginning. You're using that same courage to work through transition, because I know how hard it is. And so it's the first time I've ever really thought about that courage that you need to start a social enterprise, especially one like yours, that you use then to move through it and hand it over to new leadership. So congratulations to you for that. And I'm also interested in how you set up your board, how you managed to sort of achieve a board that's been so supportive, because we know that that's really critical to succession. Have you any comments to make about setting up a board that helps with that process?
Well, I think we need really to be careful, in selecting our board. First and foremost, of course, if we share the same vision and mission, I think beyond everything, beyond our emotional connections to the organization, we need really to check our loyalty to the mission, right? To the vision. And I think that's what also your board need to realize. And I think to selecting the board, that's really need to be considered. Don't rush, you need also to observe real process, and you need really also to look on the board heart that really respect the history of the organization, because sometimes it's really very painful to to give all those power to people who don't share really the love, the history, the respect. There are culture for us. It is very particular for me that to respect the culture of the organization. And how powerful is that board? They need to be, to respect that, and they need to share the culture of the organization. So I think that's really very important, and the board need to understand that they have to set aside their egos on this, because sometimes the politicking and power game. So I don't rush. Our board has have a 3-year term, and they need to understand that, because there are organizations that the board can stay forever, and there's no process within the board. So the board need also to make sure that they have a clear policy on their engagement. So we have 3 years, and then they can be re-elected if the majority agreed, but they can change, right? So they know also that they have boundaries, right? They have the boundaries, and when we have a shared boundaries also of our function. Because I recently encountered that I was invited in one of the board, and suddenly the chair of the board wants to just change the full direction of the organization. I said, hey, that's not what I signed in. And I just resigned. So yeah, so I think, yeah, don't be afraid with the board from the very beginning. Also have really a written, descriptions of their job, and take time as a founder. I think we have the leverage also to, really to know what's in the heart and what is the purpose of this board. Is he really, share the same mission or the same visions that we have? If not, change, right? So I think that's it.
Great wisdom. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, I was thinking, Andrea, that it would probably be nice if we could open the floor now to other speakers, other participants who are here. Are you happy to do that? Should we do that?
I am, yes, absolutely.
Great. So I'd love to invite other people who've been listening to Cecilia and Andrea and myself in this discussion so far to make a contribution. I've seen several of you nodding. Gisela, do you want to pop in and just give us a comment? Gisela, are you in Brazil at the moment?
Yeah, it's very hot here, guys.
Different. Yeah.
I have many questions. First of all, thank you, Cecilia. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's amazing what you have done. And wow. Maybe one or two thoughts about what you said. I've done my transition as well, and I'm struggling with my board because we have a peculiar history, and I do like what you said about writing down and knowing the boundaries, who does what is expected from me, what is expected from the others, right? I think this is very, very nice. So I really would like maybe to learn, or maybe something that you have inspired you in order to, because I'd like to present this to my board. So what happened? I did the transition in 2017. I've been in the board since then, but what is expected from each one of us, it's not so clear. And I really would like to learn how to do this best way you've done. And I think one of the things that is for me very difficult, and that's a second question on the same subject, is, and I see that maybe it's difficult for you as well, is how we understand our role, because of course we see that you still have your organization in your blood, it's in your veins. I mean, you have reflected about lots of things, but you're still very much part of it. So how is this process for you? Because I feel the same. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. It's not really easy, but I think, as I said, I start with the reality that the organization, I want the organization to outlive me. Okay, I want the organization to continue beyond me, and I think it takes a lot of excitement, and take a lot of courage to prepare ourselves and to accept that we are facing, a next stage of life. I think it will always start with us, that plan something beyond the organization. Like for me, I was able to get married again, you know. I've been a widow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm a widow for a long time, and you know, I was able to, you know, to find time for, you know, for love, you know. So I think you need to, you know, to create and to examine also your new you. Okay, it's definitely, I agree, we will never totally disconnected to the organization. It's part of our, it's air we breathe, it's the blood that runs, but we need to find a new way, you know, to continue. And you need your people and the board to understand that and respect that. So find some areas of the organization that you can still continue to contribute. Like for me, I got the social enterprise. Now it's a new project, you know, and nobody knows how to do it. So find a way as a new member of the board to focus on something, right? But stay away with the day-to-day activities that we done, you know, with all the nitty-gritty and everything, and refocus that in something, in other things, you know, in taking care of yourself and everything. But definitely, you have a lot of things that can continue to, you know, to contribute to the organization. I think, Andrea, there's a good article on this, the 2 tables for founders, 2 tables, something. Yeah, I think the school before introduced something that, you know, there's a research. Yeah, there's a research, and I think it's really good. It's a good research. It guides
We'll
me.
find that and send the link out.
Yes, yeah. So that actually guides me.
That's great. That's great. I think my wife would be very annoyed if I remarried. but I can see that it's wonderful for you to have found love again, and that's great. Can I ask if anybody else would like to come in? Angela, are you there? Would you like to make a remark or give us your wisdom? Are you there?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Are you in Liberia at the moment?
Yes.
That's great.
I'm in Liberia at the moment. So I momentarily was lost because of power failure in Liberia. So I had to rejoin you without the video.
It's lovely for you to be with us. And as you can see, Cecilia, we have a very international crowd on this, on this session.
Yeah. Yes.
Any thoughts from you, Angela?
Thank you. I'm really excited to be on this call and to be able to interact and listen to you, Madam Cecilia Flores-Oebanda. Thank you for your work in the Philippines, and also to thank Chris and Andrea for putting together this great Elders Council. Each time I join the Zoom call, I learn a lot, and it's helped me as I build on with the work that I'm doing in Liberia, and also with the transitioning plan, which is still going on. I haven't really transitioned together, but I'm in the phase of transitioning. I just wanted to know, Madam Cecilia, when you were in the beginning stages, you said you developed some policies earlier on, I think 2 or 3 policies. How long did it take you for that process at the beginning, and moving forward for the team to work within the guidelines that you set? Because now you have raised the organization to a certain level, and it takes a while for you to have a dedicated team, people that you trust, and all of that. I just wanted to know, like, the time frame that it takes in the Philippines.
Thank you, Angela. Okay. By the way, Cecilia, Angela and her husband have created a fantastic hospital in Liberia. So they are also social entrepreneurs in their own right, in a different field. Back to you, Cecilia.
Yeah, if you're asking about the policy or the law that we develop, it varies. For the domestic worker law, it takes me 20 years of lobbying before it was passed here in the Philippines. The child labor, I think it's around 8 years, right? And the trafficking is a little bit, shorter because of the Palermo Protocol. But within the organization, we do the transitions. We have also set up some policy. It needs really to realize by everybody that we are in the transition process. And every staff need to be part of it, and we need really to make understand why we are doing all this transition, and what is the purpose of the transition. So we really allow time for discussion, time for everybody to share, and also the board. We have what do you call that? We have a discussions on every steps that we need to take, including consultations of the staff, because I think this really need a participatory, participatory process, so that people will not panic and people will create their own agenda, create a new different direction. So for me, that's really important to be all shared by everybody. And of course, from the very beginning, we need to have really a policy of the engagement of the board, and discussions of the founder engagement to the organization. So it should be really clear and also documented, because maybe after 3 years you have a different board, and it will just turn around whatever the decision and the process that had been undertaken on your transition. So in practice and in writing, it should be really well documented.
Angela, was that a helpful answer?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do I answer your question, Angela?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
That's great. And Angela, best of luck with the transition, which I know you're in the process of managing at the moment.
Thank you.
Now we have our friend from the Peaceful Heart Network. I would love to have remembered her name, but I haven't. But you're welcome.
Gunilla.
Yes, Gunilla. Yeah. So I'm Gunilla Hamne, so yeah, from Sweden.
Yes.
And I'd just like to share something, because it started for me, my mission in this world started in the Philippines in the beginning of the 1980s. So, and because I was part of what at that time existed in the world called the Solidarity Movement. So we were internationalists who were supporting the freedom fighters in the Philippines. Yeah, so at that time. So I was actually there almost at the same time as Cecilia was in prison, I think, wasn't it?
Yes,
Which years? Yeah. And met many others. And the thing was, I was a stupid young woman from Sweden who wanted to learn things there. And then some of the friends there would say to me that, isn't it better you learn something and come back when you have something to offer, and not just being interested in our work? Because because the Philippines, it was so well organized, everything. So I spent time with what was called then the CBHP, the community-based health programs. Yeah. And that's where I learned a lot about first aid that was done in the countryside where there was no healthcare. And I learned the first steps of acupuncture. And now I'm coming to where I am at now, because later on, I learned another technique that I've been working with for 15 years, and several techniques for trauma, since you're also talking about trauma. So that is my mission, and supporting people, and it's very simple technique. So I'm just saying this to your council, because if anybody's interested in learning some of this, I've been also to Liberia to teach some people there. I've been to many places. Unfortunately, I've never been back to the Philippines, and I'm a bit ashamed of that. But at least I met Cecilia in Sweden when she came for the World Children's Prize for the Rights of the Child. So, so I could write just a link to our resources, and if anybody's interested, just contact me, because we do online trainings for exactly this that Cecilia was describing in the beginning, not only for the ones we work with, but for ourselves, because of meeting so many, listening to so much, being in so many strange and super difficult situations that I know of Cecilia's life since knowing about and knowing her for many years. So, and this occurs everywhere, of course, in the world. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you so much, Cecilia, for all of.
I'm still using your tapping exercise.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
That's great.
Good. Yeah. So I'll write to you, Cecilia. So let's connect and we talk.
Do put your
I'll
put
my
your thing
contact
in the link before we finish.
I will.
And I'm reminded that we are recording this session, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was happy with that we're recording this. And if any problems, please let me know. John Dibaba, welcome to our session. Did you want to make a comment at this point? You are obviously not necessarily of retirement age, but I know that you have a lot of other interests in your mind. And welcome from Uganda, where you are now.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, I want to ask Cecilia a question about the choices of the people that we should have on the board. Because in most cases, the people who want to be on the board, they also have their own interest. How do we make the right choices of the people we want to have in our board?
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And welcome, by the way. Yeah. Back to you, Cecilia.
Yeah, I think how we choose is really depends on as I said earlier, is the sharing of mission and vision of the organization. Right? If we need, as I said, we need really to take time to know the person. Sometimes we take a board because they are popular, because they have money, or they have, So I think beyond that, we need really to see first if we share the same commitment, vision, and respect of the organizational culture. Because boards sometimes tend to insist their own culture. If they're not respectful of the culture, it's really a disaster. So so I think that's really important. Don't rush. Take time, investigate. Because for us, you need recommendations from different peoples. And you can ask questions. You can have interviews of your candidates in board. As a founder, I think you need to see that you're also an authority. This is like your baby, that you are handling them. Is she really able to carry it right? Right? So I think our perspective also as founder need also to change. Sometimes we feel that we are in mercy of the board, but we are the one who created the board. Right? So they have to share. So I think we need a different mindset also. So don't make it it's like a professional way of selecting. If this is my child, I will make sure that my child will be taken care of by the right people. So don't put people like a bus, don't put the wrong people in the bus in the wrong seat, because they're going to go crash in the cliff. So I think for me that's very important. As a founder, we are the one who is selecting our board, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, I don't know, this is just coming to my mind. Maybe when you transition, you can create a clean slate also for the board. Board should also do translate. we also need a transition, right? It's not only you as a founder who's going to do it in transition. The board should also be in transition, and that should be part of the process.
Ah, got it. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Thank you for your question, John. Mahadi, did you have anything you'd like to bring? We would, Mahadi, you're in Lesotho, if I remember rightly.
Yes, I'm in Lesotho. Yes, I think for me, it's just learning. I'm learning so much. And I think I've been struggling with the how to deal with the board. But I think I've been able to learn from the people who have gone through it, who have done it. And also, I think I've been struggling with how to really select the board. I'm not a founder. Andrea is, but I'm just managing the project here in Lesotho, the program in Lesotho. But I think we struggle also with the same issues. So we have a lot of people who show interest to be serving on the board, and some of them would be recommended by some board members. But when you look at the background and their interest, these are people who are not really, some of them don't even know exactly what we do as an organization. So it made me realize that we really have to take our time. And sometimes you get pressure from the board that we need to take these people on board as soon as possible. And I think it has really opened my eyes now that we don't have to rush. It's such an important process which we need to think through properly and make sure that we have the right people on the board. I think that would be my take home from this session today.
Yeah. And again, I think if possible, if we look at the transition as the whole organization transition, not only the founder transition, I think the board should be also part of the transition, right? Before the founder transcend, it's also need to re-examine. I don't know. Yeah.
And you know, just listening to what you're saying, I think, as you say, that we all have to have a different mindset. I think when you talk about the board, we think immediately of governance. And the moment we think about governance, we think they are in charge of everything. So I think we do all need to develop a different mindset about the leadership. And as Mahadi says, I founded Rights for Health a long time ago, but Mahadi is the new leadership and has the same issues that the founders do, because the new leadership has to think about succession. So I think this is relevant to founders and the new leadership. So, it's not just, and the board, as you say, Cecilia.
Cecilia, just since she has just joined us, which I'm very pleased about, I just wanted to introduce you to Hannah Morillo, who is starting an organization in your own country.
Hi, Hannah. Musta?
Hi, hello. Kamusta rin, Cecilia? So nice to see you.
Yeah.
Pasensya na, may meeting ako.
Saan ka?
Nasa Manila base. Manila right now, yes.
Okay, sige.
So maybe,
sorry, everyone.
So Hannah, do share your email with Cecilia, then you and she can be in touch.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, that would be great. Hannah's starting an organization in the field of psychology, mental health, Cecilia.
Oh, good.
Yes. So very much.
The next pandemic.
Yes, very much up your street.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Konkanko, Joshua, sir, we haven't invited you to come into the conversation, which is not by any reason except that other people were talking first, but it would be lovely to hear from you and any views you have on what Ma Cecilia has said. You are, of course, from the Cameroon originally, and you are now living in Portugal, if I remember rightly, and unless you are living somewhere else at the moment.
You are right. I am living in Portugal and in a very complex situation of transition. So I've also learned a lot from Cecilia. The complex situation is due to the fact that Cameroon is still at war. Actually, there is a genocide going on there. And part of the board is in Cameroon and part is in Portugal. And we have created a new organization to be able to function in Portugal called the African Way, called from our African permaculture concept that we developed in 1996. So I am now in a stage where I don't know if I'll live long enough to go back to Cameroon. So African Way is supposed to build a synergy culture of enterprise between Cameroon and Portugal. And I find it very complex. It's not time to bring everything on board, but I just say what is also my take home about the people that we choose on the board. Because in this transition, there are lots of people who come in, some with empathy, some because they have maybe way to help, but most of the time they don't understand the historical and the philosophical perspective between the Better World Cameroon that was formed to actually give leadership, the eco-village that we founded as a space for this kind of leadership and a voice was burned down, and it's why we are in exile, trying to gather the pieces and to transition as well for myself.
Yes, difficult.
Yeah, very difficult, and the complex situation of trying to manage and govern an organization whilst at the same time having these particular problems. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Konkanku, for your remarks. Bamju, did you want to make a comment? You've been very welcome joining us, and I wondered whether you'd like to comment at this time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry. I was very moved and very impressed with everything you have done and gone through. And what I was most impressed with was actually your mindset practice. How did you maintain your mindset and try to stay positive when you are experiencing all these negative situations around you? It will be really great if I can hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bamju. And where are you based, and what is your interest?
I'm based in London, originally from Korea. I'm not necessarily in human trafficking or anything in that situation, but I'm studying sustainability and food and anything associated with it. And there are a lot of social justice issues as well as equality issues around this. So it's really helpful to hear your perspectives.
Oh, that's great. So the mindset, Cecilia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it's really a choice. You know, I'm not really positive before. In fact, I'm so negative and I'm so overwhelmed with all those, negative emotion. But I think it's, it's a choice because after these years, of fighting, I know that negativity is not really the real mystery of life. The real mystery of life is really how to find joy and true justice, courage and kindness in our journey. And the more that we embrace positivity and, and look on the real meaning of life beyond our emotions, it's quite liberating. And actually we were able also to, if we able to unload all those, all those negative feelings and emotions that we have and turn it into a more positive and forward looking, the journey will be more easier, judge less, look on, on things that we can celebrate. Kindness and compassion is free and it's always the right way how to deal things, and see life as a journey and really become positive is really a choice. a choice of mindset, because I think mindset is just really a choice, right? So, and actually, I learned that from the survivors that I because some of them's really like graduated in college, they have a new life, so I learned it from them, you know. And mindset is really a choice for all of us, what kind of road we need to take.
Thank you very much.
Well, on that very inspiring note, Cecilia, we seem to have run out of an hour. I don't know how we've managed to do that. I think it's because everything you've said is so fascinating. I just want to thank you very much, Cecilia, for all the amazing work you have done and continue to do, and the people's lives that you've changed over that time. I'm very struck by several things you've said, and the things that I think are so important as well, about how we all have to be so conscious and focused on the mission and the vision, and that real powerful word and powerful mindset of respect I think is the key to this, to all of this. So thank you for your reminder of how important those things are. And I'll hand over to Chris for the final goodbye, but thank you all very much for taking part. I've learned a huge amount, and thank you to you all, and have a wonderful happy holidays, and see you next year.
That's right. Yeah, Cecilia, thank you so much. It's been terrific to be part of this webinar and to hear your wisdom, which I think we've all enjoyed and appreciated very much. I wanted to thank the participants who have come on to this program. We really appreciate your attendance, and we are so thrilled that this is such an international or global audience. I think literally every person who has spoken has been in another country. And so, you know, it's marvelous to be able to share that in that way. So we are delighted. There are lots of webinars going to take place next year. Do please keep an eye on the website, and we'll also stay in touch with you so that you can benefit from and enjoy other webinars that we will be holding and other events that we'll be holding as well. As the pandemic has receded, so we have been able to also get out and about, and we're happy to bring our own event to your event if that makes sense. So we were talking recently in Brussels at a big Ashoka event, for example. But for now, many, many thanks indeed, and wishing everyone very, very happy New Year. And in particular, thank you, Cecilia, for a wonderful presentation and a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.